Welcome back. Today we're going to take a quick look at the Tigerism Helianthus. So Helianthus, otherwise known as the sunflower, this one is their planar hi-fi in-ear earphones. So this is Tigerism's planar driver set, and those of you who are familiar with Octave, that was a single dynamic driver. This one has a planar 14.2 millimeter planar inside of this. So really on the outside you get a very attractive, very blue turquoise-like faceplate. The rest of the shell is metal, and it does say sunflower on the side there. But this style, kind of half moon style or 3/4 moon style, is something that you may have seen before. It's actually quite comfortable, nice build quality, kind of what you're expecting at the price point. This is the outer box is in the silver. The inner box is this one. It's actually kind of nice as well. Nice earphone bag for those of you who are into the cinch bags. I like the mesh ones. This is actually a little bit nicer. It does say Tigerism on it. Inside you get two sets of the Tigerism stock tips, which is what they gave out on Octave as well. Inside you do get a nice black cable, and I didn't use the stock cable. I've got plenty of cables. I figured I would save this for if someone picked this set up from Apos, they would get to enjoy a brand new cable without my fingerprints on it, so someone will get lucky. But yeah, I do want to thank Apos for again loaning me this set. It's something that you're not going to be able to get your hands on due to the price. And what is it? It is a $500 14.2 millimeter planar driver, right? So it's a bit pricey, a little bit pricier than what I think people are going to be expecting for a 14.2 millimeter planar driver. And I think this is sort of how I would summarize it. It's really going to be near impossible price point for a planar unless it does something very, very special. And I think that would have been the key, and that would have been the key marketing point on this set, was to point out whatever that special bit was going to be. It really needed to do something to justify paying a couple $100 extra for a set by Tigerism using a driver that's probably similar to lots of other planar drivers. So my first impression out of the box, it was a bit bright and a bit too planar sounding. And I think that was kind of the special bit that I was really hoping to hear from a $500 planar, was what should it actually sound like? What was I expecting? I was expecting a very natural, very extended, something that resembled a kilobit hybrid, as opposed to something that came off very similar to other planar drivers, because it was a bit brighter. And when you do planar drivers a bit brighter, they tend to lean into that planar timbre, and that's exactly what happened here on Sunflower. So we'll take a quick look at the graph, and we'll take a quick run through the rest of the sheet as well, because I don't think there was a whole lot here that's going to justify the price. So this is kind of more of a for your information only kind of thing, and if people are interested in this style set, I think they will buy it no matter what I say. But for the rest of us, I think it was an interesting experience to hear Tigerism's take on doing planar tuning. And this is kind of what it looks like. If you take Letshor's S15 and assume that's sort of the smoothest, most natural sounding planar these days, you can kind of see that Tigerism left this one a little bit bright, a little bit too treble-y is how I will say that. But it just comes off, when you leave planar drivers just a little bright like that, they basically lean right into planar timbre, and it sounds exactly like a planar, whereas S15 really tried to move towards a more natural sound, and they did. So I think these two sound exactly how they are on the graph, and Tigerism just left a little bit of extra treble in there, and that comes across as a planar set kind of right off the box, right out of the box. It's hard to miss the planar timbre that comes across when you leave a little bit of brightness there on a planar set. So sound, it's definitely one of those sets that doesn't sound natural, but you can still be enjoyable, and mostly because of the planar attributes come through, right? If this wasn't a planar driver, if this was just a bright dynamic driver that didn't have the technicals of a planar, I would probably not be all that enjoyable to me. But as a planar fanboy, I think it was pretty cool to hear their take on it. It is a little bit brighter, it's a little bit unnatural, but it's still a planar driver, and it still sounds like a planar driver, and it comes across as a brighter, cleaner, leaner, It can be oddly appealing in that way if that's what things that drive. If you like those more technical sounds, that's what this one sounds like. But I won't lie. I think after you listen to it for a little bit, listen to it for a little while, brain burn kicks in, and it doesn't sound nearly as bright as it does. But as soon as you A/B and kind of take a step back, it's a bit too bright and a little bit too unnatural. But if you're a planar fanboy, you'll kind of get it right away out of the box. It sounds like a planar and better than most because it's smoother. Like I said, it kind of inherits a little bit of the S15 smoothness. I think they got that part right. It's not like the older planars, which were a little bit rougher around the edges, super detailed, but a little bit unrefined. This one sounds more refined, a little bit smoother, but they just left it a little bit bright. But you will definitely, if you listen to a bunch of planars, you will kind of recognize it, and it's pretty easy EQ to get down the treble into a more natural level. And like most sets, if you fix the stage, you'll find the balance where it sounds more natural. It's exactly what happens on this set. It goes from bright and flat to more natural and deep. It's almost a night and day change as soon as the stage extends behind your head and you hit the zone of where it should sound like. And it sounds like a great set when you do that. So bass, I think out of the box, almost sounds neutral bright. But if you tilt the treble down, you do get to reveal a lot of that controlled bass that's there. Planars can do bass very well. No boom, no bloat. I think this one has all that as well. There's nothing really different about this than other planars and their ability to do very, very nice bass at a higher level. And this one is no different. You just have to knock the treble down, and then even in EQ, you can add a good 2 to 5 dB on the bass shelf. There's plenty of treble extension to support that much on the bass shelf, and it actually sounds like a quite nice set if you do that. Get a more impactful sound, and it's a ton of fun once you actually EQ it. So the mids, again, in this style tuning where it sounds a little cleaner, leaner, a little bit thinner, you do need to adjust both ends for the mids to come through, and that's exactly what happens here. You got to take the treble down a little bit more bass, a little bit less treble. That will thicken your mids into a more natural sound. Out of the box, it's just a bit too thin, too flat, kind of borderline peaky. So you need to get rid of all that, and the treble and the mids will fall right into place. So again, the driver is very good, and they really thinned out the mids to the point where it sounded very clear and a bit lean, but it was a bit far from natural, and it's kind of hard, even though it's enjoyable to listen to in its stock form, it's sort of hard to get past the unnaturalness to it and the planar timbre that comes across because of the levels that they use in the treble. So speaking of the treble, again, planars sound more planar when they are over neutral, so you really have to tilt this one down in the EQ. It should sound very linear. Planars, when they're tuned right, they almost go out to the horizon of your hearing. There should be no peaks. You should just hear resolution and extension all the way out as far as you can hear, no matter whether you're listening at low volume or high volume. That's sort of the characteristic of really nice planar treble. And then it should scale through high volume and low volume. There really shouldn't be any difference in capability. You should actually hear tons of extension, whether you're listening at a super low volume or a high volume. There shouldn't be any weird distortion to it. It should be very nicely executed treble, as planars are really good at that. So on this one, you definitely need to flatten that 2K bump, as it's not linear with the rest of the treble and sound. Nothing should sound out of place, and that 2K just sounds a little bit out of place, especially when you turn up the volume. It just kind of pops out of place, and it really shouldn't, because they just left a little bit too much there. And stage, fix the tuning, and the stage will sound like the price in all three dimensions. Again, it should resemble the stage on a really nice, maybe not a kilobuck hybrid, but it should be up there in a hybrid style stage. Really nice height, width, and depth, and that's kind of what comes across when you EQ it. There's just a huge shift from as soon as you get it to shift behind your head, from flat to behind your head, and just lowering the treble and increasing the bass a bit does that perfectly well. So that is a quick one on the Tigerism Helianthus Sunflower. So again, thank you guys, and thank Apos for loaning this one to me, and I will see you next time.